There are legitimately quite a large number of objections, or at least concerns people have when they're considering life extension technologies in a real practical sense. Things like, will there be enough space to house everyone? And then I think there's also emotional objections where it's really weird and it's really different and it's really unnatural. And people will get concerned by those ideas. And then they may also go looking for objections to these ideas, trying to justify what is for them a sense of it's just too weird. And I think it's very important to both concretely deal with the specific objections like overpopulation and to keep in mind just how odd these sorts of ideas are and how unnatural they are for most people, except, nerds like ourselves discussing them. But specifically, overpopulation. At the moment, the UN predicts that world population will peak somewhere around 10 to 11 billion people in 2100 and then decline thereafter. And the reason for that is that people are just having fewer and fewer kids these days than they used to. So most developed countries have birth rates that are far below replacement level. So replacement level being something like, I forget the exact number, but 2.1 to 2.3 births per female. And I think somewhere like the US has, I'm not going to get these exactly right, but something like 1.6 births per female. And in some countries, it's as low as like 0.8 or so. So at the moment, the world looks like it's on track to have a shrinking population rather than a growing one in the medium term. Now, obviously, if you had something like life extension and people lived longer, then that would reduce the rate at which populations are shrinking. But I think unless we start to increase the birth rates, we're not going to have massively increasing populations anytime soon. You would eventually have a slowly growing population if truly no one ever died. But that's over such a large time scale that we start to bring into play new technologies, which sound really weird nowadays, things like space colonization or seasteading or foresting and populating deserts and those sorts of things. But I think those are the sorts of timescales we'd be talking about. And I would just remind people that in the near term, it looks more likely that underpopulation rather than overpopulation is going to be more of the problem.